I joined the Navy and moved here from California in 2004. And I was in the Navy for a while. And then unfortunately, I went through a divorce and my kids lived in another state. So after a year or so, I realized that it was so expensive on a Navy salary to be able to go see my 3 kids all the time that I needed another job and I needed something that was flexible. And my grandmother was in real estate in Southern California. And so I thought to myself, hey, I used to sit open houses with her when I was 5, 6 years old and hand out flyers. And I'm a really good talker and I love the housing market. I've always been interested in it, and I had owned 2 houses at that point. So I said, you know, what better way to make a little bit of extra money and have a flexible job on the side than to start in real estate. And you know, from there I sold 19 houses in my first 5 months, and then kind of got put with a pretty tough choice at about 14 years in the Navy to either go to Spain for 3 years without my kids or take a leap of faith and, you know, move forward with real estate full time. And you know, funny enough, I really was real estate full time while I was in the Navy. I used to hang all my dress clothes in my car and I would change out of my uniform at red lights. And then that way, by the time I got to my first showing, I'd be dressed and ready and I wouldn't be in my uniform. And then, you know, I'd get done showing and lockboxes shut off at around 9 o'clock. So probably show my last house at 8:30. And then if anybody wanted to put an offer on a house, I'd race home and I would put an offer in and, you know, kind of start all over again. I'd do searches, you know, before I'd go to bed at night. I'd wake up about an hour early and do searches to see if I missed anything. On my lunch breaks, I would call my clients, you know, just fitting it in where I could so that I could make extra money. And then I got to go fly and see my kids all the time. Because I was in the military, I obviously understand a military member's life. No matter what, you know, service you're in, we all go through a lot of the same struggles. I've helped a military member, you know, buy or sell from every service, from the Army, Coast Guard, Air Force, Marines, Navy, you name it. I've been there and helped them move. But, you know, we all go through those same struggles of, hey, do I move to an area and do I rent and, you know, kind of at what I call waste my money, right? I'm paying somebody else's mortgage. Do I rent for a year because I'm worried about where I'm going to buy and things like that. So I think knowing those things up front and knowing the struggle that people have, I was pretty lucky. I moved here. I was in Washington, D.C. for my first command, and I was just a young kid, so I didn't buy a house up there. And also because I knew I was only going to be there for 2 years. I was in the Presidential Honor Guard in Arlington National Cemetery. But when I moved down to Virginia Beach, we didn't know where to go either. And I bought, you know, my first house after a year in an apartment. And, you know, I think the realtor did, you know, her best, right? But we call it in the business like getting commission breath. And what we don't want is, you don't want a guy that's so anxious to make $1 that he doesn't advise you properly, because I had a baby on the way and the area she put us in was just not safe for my family. It was, you know, a decent first starter home, but it really gave me that drive to make sure that I help military families, you know, advise them to do their research about where they live. You know, if they ask me questions, I can guide them to the right websites and things like that can help them really pick a good area and then not waste that, you know, first year of money and get that investment ready to go. So just knowing that about military guys, I know what they make. I know, you know, that they have a steady income but don't always have a ton of it. I know that, you know, a lot of times the spouse is sitting at home while the military member's deployed. So I know that while everybody thinks a flip and a fixer-upper might be the great idea for you because you make a little bit of extra profit, maybe for your job it might not be. So those are things that, like, I know about families, and, you know, I'll ask all those questions of people, like, where are they going? What kind of job tempo are they going to have? How much are they going to be deployed? I worked for Naval Special Warfare as a support guy, and I didn't deploy for my first 3 years, but I was gone 200 days a year in local CONUS trips. So things like that are really good to know. The experience that I've had in the military, you know, you wouldn't even, if you weren't in the military, you wouldn't even know that traveling that much without deploying was a possibility. But a guy that's been on a ship, that was my second command. I was on the Vela Gulf, which is CG-72, and we were nonstop out getting ready for deployments. So I did 2 deployments in just under 4 years. So, you know, my wife was at home at the time, you know, with our brand new baby. and I wasn't home a lot. So having a super fixer-upper of a house was a big pain for her to have to deal with. I know we got, screwed over on a roof on one of our first houses because she had to do that while, taking care of a baby, and she did the best job she could. But, it always helps to have two of you there to, vet the people, etc. And just knowing all those things, I think really helps me, guide people in their endeavor of, purchasing what's going to be most likely the biggest investment of their life.